the one, the only, Ben
Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun to Lean On O.C. to conclude another week in Shulchan Aruch Yomi Siman Reish Ayin Hey. I'm reading it wrong on purpose. That's the way to read it. Reish Ayin Hey 275. They write Ayin Reish Hey. They don't want to write something negative. The question is in this Siman, there's 12 halachas over here. The first halacha talks about a low plug they made. You're not supposed to. This Siman talks about not reading or checking your clothes or checking dishes or taking bugs off your shirt, lice off your shirt by the light of candles, whether it's Nero Shabbos or another candle. When you're exclusively using that light, if you have electricity, obviously not a problem because you're using electricity, not using the candles. The gzera is you might come to, if the fire is not lit so well, you might come to move it a little bit, which either is most of Peshurin or your mavir, doing malacha d'oraisa by making it lit better, the candle. So you're not allowed to do these things. And in Siman Aleph, Sif Aleph, we find this low plug. Even if it's 10 komos high, if it's 10 stories high, there's not so much light you're getting. And there's no physical way you can be able to adjust the light. It's still aser. Low plug. They admit, just like in the case where it's right next to you, low plug, it's 10 komos high. And the Torah on the basis of air also. If it's in a glass casing where you can't get to it, or it's in a hole in the wall, also it's aser, low plug. However, the Taz asks a famous question. He says over here, we see from the Gemara, there's certain cases where you're allowed to. For example, they didn't make a low plug. For example, if two people are reading from one book at the same time, there's a heker, there's a recognition, because each person will remind each other. Or if you have someone, you appoint someone as a shomer, stay here and make sure I don't. You have a heker. Why don't they say low plug in that case, right? Or the case of Yom Kippur, people are afraid of Yom Kippur. Or Tinoko Shabes Rabban, or also young school children, they're afraid of the Rebbe. They have a heker. They're not gonna touch the Neros. Why don't we say low plug in those cases also? So Taz gives his own answer. What I like to answer, I think this makes a lot of sense, is that the gzera was you're going to forget what you're doing, and by accident you're going to come, because you need more light, you're going to tilt the candle and possibly violate the malacha d'oraisa of mavir, havara, on Shabbos. Now, this only applies, right? It applies, the Gemara says the case where it's 10 komos high, where it's 10 low plug. Because what's going to happen? Now I'm 10 komos, and the fire is 10 stories above me. I'm getting very little light. You still can't read. Why? Because next Shabbos I might be on the 10th floor, right? It might be on the 10th floor. So if last Shabbos I could read, this Shabbos I could also read. That's part of the gzera. The gzera has to have a reason. Every gzera has to have a reason. When they say a little plug, it's not just we made a gzera here, so it applies in all cases. The Chachamim were rational people. They made things based on rationality. People get confused, right? If last week they're more heter, last week it was okay, here it's also okay, right? However, if you have two people reading next to the ner together, they'll at least remind each other. You have a shomer watching, or the other example is Yom Kippur. You have your Rebbe with you who's watching over you, right? So there's a recognition. There's something different over here. There's something different. When it says 10 komos high, there's something different over here. You happen to be in a situation where you're in the bottom floor and the light is on the 10th floor. There's nothing different over here. There's nothing abnormal. Someone on the 10th floor wanted to light a light. So there's no recognition. And therefore, I think, even though the Beis Yosef and Torah say that if you have a candle which is in a glass case, it's also low plug in that case, or it's in the wall where you can't get to it, it just goes out by itself, I still think that it shouldn't apply in those cases, even though the Shulchan Aruch says it applies in those cases. I would not say low plug in these cases, because there's recognition, right? You recognize, wait a second, there's something different over here. Not all fires have a glass covering. Not all fires are lit in the wall, right? It's something different over here. It's different than a regular fire. If something's different over here, the situation is different, then there's no reason to be makmir. But if you have a 10 komos high, 10 stories high, next Shabbos I might be on the 10th floor. Nothing's changed over there. That's not something significantly different. It's just I happen to be on the bottom floor. Next week I happen to be on the 10th floor. Here there's something different. Normally you don't light neros in shashios. If you would always light neros in glass encasings, so then you would never have a problem, because never be mata. And if you light candles without the glass casing, and now it's different, then it's a heker. So, and the same thing if it's in a wall. If it's always in the wall, then there's no shash you're going to be mata. You can't be physically mata. So, and then if it's not always the case, then it's a heker. So I disagree with the Shulchan Aruch on these two cases. The idea is true if it's a heker, but it has to make sense. When they say low plug, just like it applies in this case, it applies in all other cases. You see, it's not always true. It has to have a reason. And the reason is because there's no heker. Next week I'll be in the same situation, just 10 stories high. That's the reason they made low plug. It's not just, whenever Chazal say, because Xera applies in one case, we apply in the other case, it has to have a rationale behind it. Always has to have a reason behind it, whether it's Darabanan or Del Raisa. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.